Hi everybody, it's me again. So one thing that you should know about me is that I want to know everything. I want every question answered. I want to visit every place. I want to learn every language. And I want to read everything that's been written. And I think this passion for knowledge was instilled in me by the incredibly amazing teachers that I've had in my life who've influenced me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. Dan Brown, who's the author of The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons and Inferno and The Lost Symbol, talks about in his master class, which I should interject just here, that you should definitely check out master class and see these amazing courses that are taught by incredibly famous people. So do take a look at master class. I just love it. They're so good. I've finished Anna Wintour's and Margaret Atwood's and Joyce Carol Oates and Malcolm Gladwell. I'm doing Dan Brown right now, and I also just started Jane Goodall's. So Dan Brown says in one of his very first classes, teaching is the noblest of professions. And so I love that, maybe because I'm a teacher, but I also agree with that in so many ways. So I love teaching. My mom is a math teacher. I have a bunch of teachers in my family. I think I was destined to teach. I remember in 7th grade putting up a sign on my door that says Professor Katen, as if that were my office. English department, so it's kind of nerdy, but that's definitely happened, that I now teach in an English department. So I was also lucky enough to grow up during what I call, I grew up at a time when I was taught by what I call the golden age of teachers. So I hit that at just the right time because we had these incredibly well-trained teachers who came from the tradition of the New York State normal school. And I encountered them mid-career for them. So I was able to benefit from their experience, but also they were still very much energetic, very enthusiastic, and I think that made all the difference. So I really benefited from smart and dedicated teachers. Then I was lucky enough to attend Ithaca College, which has definitely, and I can't stress this enough, what an amazing experience that was, more than their fair share of incredibly dedicated, enthusiastic, dynamic, interesting, impassioned professors who continue to influence me every day that I step into the classroom. So these are people super famous in their fields, super dedicated and passionate to their scholarship, and also incredibly caring teachers who love what they do and love working with students. So that is where I learned the fundamental principle that guides my teaching, which is that you teach with your personality. When you walk into that classroom, you walk in with your teaching personality and you use that to reach your students. Or, as we're discovering in this period of remote learning, because of social distancing, etc., you have to get that personality to show on the computer. So I totally believe that you teach with your personality. Let me give you an example. At Ithaca College, as a gen ed course, I took an art history course on Baroque art. So didn't know much about that at the beginning. But I had this amazing teacher who made every lecture so fun and so exciting. So for instance, we spent a few weeks of the semester working on Dutch art of the Baroque in the Netherlands. I ended up writing a paper on this painting that I'll show you right now. This is Girl with Water Jug. It is on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. So I got to write this paper, and then it was very exciting to go and to see this painting by Vermeer on display at the Met. So this professor, she would be so enthusiastic during her lectures. They were so fun and interesting and dynamic. And she would always end with a cliffhanger. For instance, she would say, and that concludes our tour of Baroque art in the Netherlands. When we return on Monday, we're off to exotic Italy. And, she would just build up this suspense. And then she would say, but Caravaggio gets himself into some trouble. But more on that when we return on Monday. So it felt like a field trip with a really awesome tour guide every day. And that's where I learned, that was one really great example of the power of personality as you teach. So I don't think that there's any such thing as a dry subject. I teach English, which I love, of course. And even the things that we do that people think are dry, like MLA, works cited, parenthetical citations, that kind of thing, you just have to make interesting. And one of the ways that I do that is because I'm working on my own scholarship. So I'll put my own article up on the screen. I'll show the students my own works cited page and say, look, this is what, I'm not asking you to do this to torture you. This is something that's important. Look at how you can, find sources, find answers to your questions by looking at the resources that are at the bottom of somebody else's, works cited page. So usually when students see that there's a real application here, that there's a real life, or I have to get my works cited page ready for my editor to look at, then they start to see, and if they see you enthusiastic about it, then they start to take it more seriously and they learn. We learn from being interested, we learn from caring about the things that we do, and we learn from feeling something. So as you can see, I want to know everything. And I learned that from extraordinary teachers who themselves, I think, want to know everything.